In this video, I'm going to show you where to go to get the IBM X Analysis software, and then I'm going to show you how to install it. In order to install the X Analysis IBM software and to run it, you need to be at least on version V7R2, and the user profile that does the install will need to have all object authority as well as second-in authority, because as part of the install we will be creating a user profile and some authorization lists that will own and control the X Analysis objects. Now, to get to the download of the software, you go to My Fresh Solutions with an e.com, and then you want the /downloads folder. Now, as you can see, in order to use this, I have to sign in. This is the you sign in for the portal. You should have received an email already with the details for your user profile and your password. Your user profile is actually your email address. As you can see, I've gone in before, so now all I have to do is log in. I already have my credentials saved inside Chrome in my case. So now we'll get the software screen here for download. Now I just go and select X Analysis 13302 and click on the little box there, and now you'll see we have a Go To Software Download. I just click on that button and then we'll appear here on the download page. Now what we're interested in right now are these two files right here, the X Analysis server and the X Analysis README. The README will have the directions on how to do the install. So I would just click on the server option here, and I would also click on the README, and they will download. So at this point, just pause this video and wait till these two objects have been downloaded. And now that the downloads are finished, we're going to go on to the next step, which is actually uploading the save file and then actually doing the install. Now, what I'm going to do is I've downloaded the X Analysis server README 13.3.02 that you see here, and I'm going to switch over to that to go through the steps there. Okay, so as you can see here, I've actually scrolled down a bit. I'm using Ultra Edit, so it may look a little differently than whatever software you use to open text files. And one of the things that's important is when you do the install, there are two libraries, one called XAPROD and the other a tutorial which we ship with the software, get restored when you do the install. Now, as you can see here, there's a comment. If there are any locks on either one of those objects, the install will throw off an error and fail. Now, seeing that you don't have these libraries installed, at least it's most probable you don't have these library installs, you don't have to worry about that particular issue right now. Now, the first thing you need to do is, in one of the downloads, you would have downloaded a zip file called XASRV, followed by the version number. What you need to do is unzip that zip file to get the save file. Then you need to transfer that to the IBM where you're going to install the software. Now, as you can see here, listed here are some FTP commands. If you wanted to manually FTP it up, you can use whatever method you use to transfer the save file to your IBM. You could use, for example, FileZilla. That's the software that I personally use. And as a recommendation, I would suggest you put it in the library QGPL. That way you'll know where to find it. So at this point, what you need to do is unzip the folder and then send the save file over. So why don't you press pause on this recording and then come back to the recording when you're actually finished transferring over the save file, and then we'll continue on from there. Now that you've unzipped the file and transferred over the save file, I'll show you the next steps you have to follow. So as you can see, I'm just scrolling down here in the instructions. And step 3, this is where you'll do the install. Now, the first step in that is to delete the XAN4 load library if it exists. Seeing this is your initial install, it will probably not exist. Then you need to restore lib manually using the save file using the restore lib command. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go over to the 5250 side, and I will submit that as a batch job. But I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to do a submit job, and I'm going to do a restore lib, and I'm restoring XAN for load. My device is star save file. The save file is called XASRV 13302 in this case, because that is the version of the software I'm installing, and I know it's in QGPL, so I'm going to enter it there just to be safe. And I'm going to call the job XAN for load, and I'm going to hit F10. So I'm going to go down here, 400 star SECLDL, because I want to see all the details. And now I'm going to press enter, and the job has been submitted. I'm just going to pause the video for a few minutes because I want to wait for the restore to finish. So now, as you can see, I have a message that the job is completed normally. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a work USR job so I can see it, and I just want to take a look at the XME for load down here. So I'm going to do 8 to look at the spool files, 5 to look at the job log. I'm going to go to the bottom. I did B for bottom and pressed enter, as you can see. Now I'm going to page up, and I can see 99 objects restored, 0 not restored. So I'm going to space out the B and hit enter, and now hit F3 twice to get back to my command line. Now I'm going to flip back and follow the directions after this. So now it says I have to add library XN and for load using the below commands. I'm just going to copy and paste it to save myself some time. Now I'm going to go back to the next step, and it's going to ask me to run this command, XAN for load /xinstall. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put a question mark in front of this, because this way it will prompt me and show me all the parameters. So I want to install it as a batch job. I do not want to install it interactively. I don't want to risk slowing the machine down for anybody else. If you have independent auxiliary storage pools, you can install Xanalysis to those independent auxiliary storage pool. If you do that when you create your repositories, they'll have to be in an IASP, independent auxiliary storage pool, as well. Most of the time, in most clients, actually just leave it as start on, so it'll put it in the standard base pool. As you can see, I have a start XA API server. I'm leaving that as a Y. An API server is a new feature we've started to use that will actually speed up some of the Xanalysis processing. For example, when you log into your Xanalysis client and after you make your connection and open up the list, it'll speed that up a bit. I want to install the demo libraries because then that gives you a place where you can try out Xanalysis and see how it works. And it's a relatively small library. It's around 500 objects. So it processes quite quickly, and it's already initialized. You can just go and use it right off. And I'm going to say yes for verbose installation because I want to see all the details. So now I'm just going to press enter, and the install will start, and I'll get all the messages. Okay, so as you can see, I have a message already saying during installation, user access to Xanalysis will be disabled. Seeing nobody's using Xanalysis, that's not really an issue. Okay, the version being installed requires port 13302 to be opened on the server. The reason for this is we started to use something called an API server where we use REST APIs, and this is how it communicates with this particular version of the software. For example, we now have an API that when you go in and open up your connection to your IBM I and then say show me all the repositories, there's a REST API running there, and it now runs faster to show you the list. And as you can see, a warning, if the port's not open, the API server job should be manually started. The API server job started by the installation will execute as the user me because I'm doing the install. Do you want the installation to start the XA API server jobs? I'm going to say yes because if I don't, I have to do it manually. Ready to launch the installation process? Yes, I am. So I'm going to press Y again. Now, this is the license agreement. You have to actually get down to the bottom, and you can do a Shift F6 if you want to go straight to the bottom. I'm just going to page through the screens one at a time, and you can always pause it if you want to read it, or you can read it when you do the installation. So as you can see, it's a rather long document. And eventually I will get to the bottom. And when I do, I will hit I believe it's F6, just to and now as you can see we have a French copy. I'll go through that a little faster, because most of you will not be reading the French copy. So here we now, it's just a list of the companies, and now I press an F6 to say I accept, and now it's submitted the job. As you can see, it says it's been submitted. So I'm going to do a work submitted job, IBM job, so I can see my submitted jobs. And as you can see, the X-install job is now running. So I'm going to pause the recording at this point, and I'm going to wait till it finishes. It usually takes between 15 minutes, 20 minutes to half an hour. It depends on how busy your IBM is, how much disk space you have available, all those other standard factors for an IBM. So I'm going to pause the video now, and then I'll come back when it's finished. So as you can see, the job is finished. So I'm just going to press enter here to get it back. Now I'm going to do an 8 because I want to check on some spool files. So I'm going to switch back to the directions, and I'm going to scroll down a bit. As you can see, it actually describes those fields that I showed you on the screen in somewhat detail. It mentions the XA license. We need to check the generated XRLS report submitted to see what happened with the install. So I will go down to the very bottom here, and it's this last one here, right before the job log. I'll do a 5 to take a look at it. It gives me the date and time I started. It shows me all the libraries that have been restored, and everything has been restored. It says yes, so that's good. It gives me some details about what it's doing. It actually makes a backup of XAProd, if XAProd happened to be there already. If you had a previous version, seeing you should not have one, and shouldn't have done that. And it does some more listing of what it did. Now, as you can see, it says installation was successful. So at this point, the software has been installed. The next step that you would need to take is to actually apply the license key that you've been sent, so that you'd be able to start using